When I first got started in business, I struggled to focus on work. Because it was a side gig or a side hustle, I had a job at the time, and that job provided me a bit of security, which kind of prevented me from going all in. I've also heard from a lot of entrepreneurs that they kind of started off with a very difficult story. Some of them grew up in very difficult, challenging situations. Some of them grew up poor. Some of them grew up with single parents. But what if you don't have any of that? Or what if your story is not as severe as some of these other entrepreneurs? Some might say it's better to focus on the results. Focus on the outcome, the goal, make $1 million per year. And while having a certain direction is good, having too much pressure on that outcome doesn't work either. When it comes to wealth, more often than not, that is what most people want. So how is it possible to then work on your business without relying on willpower or to do work in an effortless manner? I found that I wasn't actually results oriented. I was more process driven. What do I mean by that? I mean that it's more important to focus on the input rather than the output. It's more important to focus on what you're putting into the business rather than what you're getting out of the business. That is, you are focusing on the joy, the effort, the grunt work that goes in. You're trying to find joy and rewards in the effort itself, rather than waiting for the end result to come, then reward yourself. The reason why you would do it this way is because I don't have to then rely on willpower to get myself moving. Because if I was focused on the end result, I would push myself to work just so I can get that result. But if the process was enjoyable itself, or I found reward in the process and the effort itself, then I no longer need to engage willpower to force myself to get a certain result that I wanted. So here are 3 ways in which I am able to work and focus on my business without engaging willpower. Now, before I get into it, willpower is important to help you get started. For me, it is the trigger to most of my habit changes. But willpower alone doesn't sustain consistent long-term change. So let's jump into the 3 steps. The first step is very simple. Look for the reward in the effort. As dumb as it sounds, look for the fun and the reward in the middle of what you're doing. For example, I develop marketing systems. What I try to do is I try to find joy, fun, encouragement from the systems that I'm actually building at the time. So for example, let's just say I'm doing an email campaign. I try to find improvements of just 1 to 2% better open rates and maybe 1 to 2% better click rate. Or if I'm working on a landing page, maybe I can try to get them to scroll down the page 1 to 2% further than the previous one, or have the conversion rate raised by 1 to 2%. First off, I do know that just by improving 1 to 2% every single day or even every few days, this compounds, giving you a massive result in the end. I personally get a kick out of winning these small wins, these 1 to 2 percentages. I feel like I'm solving a puzzle of a video game. Step number 2, when you do find something that triggers your excitement, even if you're not sure about it, focus on it. I'll use exercise as an example. Every single morning, I'm actually able to get up and work out without too much effort. And as weird as this sounds, it's because I actually find joy in muscle fatigue. When my muscles are tired, I know that they are being rebuilt. I can feel my muscles rebuilding, getting stronger. So what I've done is try to tie rewards to the muscle fatigue. Now, when you first try this, you might not feel anything. It might feel like pain is just pain. But our minds are so powerful, especially when it comes to focus and when we're seeking out something. If you try to look for reward within muscle fatigue, you will find it. You might start to get used to that feeling of muscle fatigue and start to enjoy it. Step number 3 is changing your identity. Now, using willpower to get started on a new habit, in my opinion, is a great way to begin. But willpower alone doesn't sustain a change for long. Whereas if you can find the joy in effort or the reward in effort, what that does is keeps your habit change for longer. It allows you to have a longer consistency with that habit. But ultimate change, meaning change that is down the years, comes from an identity shift. I didn't become a digital marketer until I started calling myself a digital marketer. I didn't become an entrepreneur until I started calling myself an entrepreneur. The words that we use from our mouths are so critical and so important. And what we call ourselves is critical, because when we can call ourselves entrepreneurs and digital marketers, or whatever it is that you want to be, that is when true change happens. That is when you can start seeing yourself as the entrepreneur you want to be. And once you start seeing yourself, you start feeling that you are that entrepreneur, that is when you become that entrepreneur.